Welcome into the Coaching Clubhouse with Adrian Last.
Hello and welcome back to the Coaching Clubhouse. I'm Adrian Last, your host for this regular podcast series about coaching. My guest today is Kevin White, co-founder of Believe Crew and an executive coach who helps leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers navigate the emotional and often high-stakes journey of leadership. Kevin spent more than 25 years working in tech before making a big shift into coaching. And now he works with people who are looking for something deeper than just success on paper. He helps people spot when things feel out of alignment, even when everything looks good from the outside. And he supports them to lead with more clarity, more purpose, and more authenticity. What I really like about Kevin's approach is that it blends leadership development with what he calls a kind of business therapy, helping people untangle the emotional side of leading and running a business. So today we're going to explore what real leadership looks like when it starts from within and how Kevin helps people navigate those big shifts in identity and purpose. Kevin, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me, Adrian. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you started out with a long career in tech. What made you take the leap into coaching?
Well, I needed the help is the main reason. So I started with two mentors early on as a tech person. I had a coach who happened to not be originally my coach. He worked with my wife first. And then I also had an energy coach, so like an energy healer type of a person. They were both in their 60s, and like a lot of my story, they saw things in me and my capabilities more than I saw, and so they kind of mentored me into saying, "Hey, I think you would actually like doing this." Along with the more I did it, the more I could see oh, okay. Well, by it, I mean coaching and healing. The more I did both of those things, I was like, this is interesting. This is way different, more fulfilling. I'm connecting to people a lot better, easier than prior when I was in tech.
And you said that, I think I'm going to quote you here, misalignment can sometimes look like success. What do you mean by that? Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, I suppose I'm going to just talk about it as a misalignment with our gifts, right? So especially for men, it could be either way, but a lot of times even women I'm working with are using like a masculine approach to success in the business world, right? It's a very, here's the problem, here's how I'm going to solve it, and I'm going to scale this, and that's how I'm going to make money. Usually I'm working with entrepreneurs, by the way, so that's part of how I'm phrasing that.
Okay.
So misalignment is when we're not allowing our gifts to, and we're not leading from who we really are, right? So what does that look like? Well, it looks like my first career. There are so many things that were good and I loved about data, and that's what I did, and I wouldn't trade the experience. It was a good place for me to learn, but it's not aligned with my people gifts. We did have a lot of people problems in tech, and I worked on the business and data side, so I got more exposure to people. But knowing what I know about myself today, I would have started off focused completely on people.
And is that what you see in the coaching that you do? Is that what you mean by that kind of misalignment? It's about people showing actually who they are rather than or who they really are rather than, what we think or their coach thinks that they want them to be.
Yeah, I think that usually what I find is we're using our gifts and our geniuses somewhat. We're usually not completely in a different area, right? But we also often are not completely aware of what. So I'm going to use an example to talk about this. For me, one of my spiritual gifts is leadership, and I was looking for someone that was a great leader all the time. Like that's why I found my coaches, every mentor I had in business and in management, etc., was a good leader, and that's what I looked for. And then I just want to kind of work with them.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
appreciated good leadership because I could recognize it, but I didn't see it in myself. And
Okay.
so today, I think my own learning has got me to a place of understanding A, what is leadership, and B, oh, I do that naturally,
Yeah. Yeah.
without a lot of effort.
And are you able to bring that to the leaders that you work with as a coach? And I know you said that you work with a lot of entrepreneurs as well, people that are creatives who are often, I guess, under a lot of pressure. Do you bring that kind of gifts to them? And what are the patterns, I guess, you see that come up again and again?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I think about my leadership, and each person is going to have their own style, right?
Yeah.
Is that I like to confront the reality of where you are right now, and I
Okay.
like to dig into that with you. So if you're coming to me stressed, I'm going to be working on. Yes, I definitely would work on like who are you, what are your gifts, all of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but also at the same time, like what are you tolerating in your life?
Mm,
What are the things that are bothering you? What do you need to hear from yourself?
yeah. Yeah.
Your that stress is in the body for some reason. Is it because you're not connecting to what you're doing? Is it because you haven't gone big enough? You're playing small, you're in scarcity,
Mm.
all of those things.
One of the things that I've seen on your Believe Crew website, and I think I've seen it in some of your LinkedIn posts as well, is a phrase which is business therapy. I
Mhm.
really love this idea. What is it
Yeah.
that actually happens? What does it look like when you're working with someone? That idea of business therapy.
Yeah, well, a lot of business, like the business therapy side of what I do is what I just went through, where
Yeah.
usually there's someone coming with a lot of stress or a lot of anxiety. And so I love situations where it's a big mess. That's that's the ones. And so that's why I use that term business therapy is like working with owners or with families where it's all tangled up. And I'm yeah, I like to listen to people. I like to understand the problem, and then I
Mhm.
like to actually dive in and mostly expose to them how they already know what the solution is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just haven't been choosing it.
Okay. And what, in your experience of doing this, where again, kind of pushing this into the area of alignment as well, which we started off with. When what are the signs that you see when somebody's drifting out of that alignment? You've kind of got them into a good place, but they're starting to drift, even if
Mhm.
on the surface everything looks fine. What are the signs that you kind of see?
Alignment looks like that. There's a smile on your face. You're happy. You have joy in your life.
Mm,
Misalignment looks like the typical thing that we see in the Western world of I'm overly stressed. I'm bringing the same thing back to sessions that I had before because I haven't really addressed the root. Um,
yeah.
I I have repeated frustrations, you know, and I'm not really listening to my body. I'm
Mm,
not connecting to the. For example, for me, a lot of the growth that I've experienced recently has been letting myself sit in the sadness, letting myself sit in the anger, letting
yeah.
myself, and get the message. Why am I angry? Why am I sad? Why am I
Mm.
fearful? And get connected to what do I need to hear that I've not been hearing.
Yeah, and that connection is just really important. And I suppose as a coach, that's one of the things that, by listening, which is what you were talking about earlier as well, you can presumably pick up on that. And I suppose, identity being a big theme in your work, how do you help people reconnect when they with their mission or their purpose when, frankly, a lot of us have been in this situation where we've lost sight of that. How does that work in practice for you?
Yeah. Well, I use so there's a we use a team approach. So my wife does a lot of the work of vision and like connecting to. She's one of those people that just knows whether you're in alignment or not. She
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
smell it when she
Okay.
meets you and you talk a little bit about who you are. She knows it. She knows for me too. Um, every day, right? Like I have a microscope on me, just like a lot of us men do with our spouses. But like uh, we start with uh, usually using some Eastern profile. Like
Hmm.
um, we use the Working Genius, we use some Western stuff, but
Okay.
and those are helpful. But the Eastern ones, like Human Design, and we actually use Gene Keys. They do a really good job of like focusing in on who you are. Most
Right.
personality profiles that ask you questions are going to give you the result of who you think you are. And that can be actually a distraction. So
Mm.
if you like for us, we use more of the Eastern profiles that I just described to get a quick understanding of who you are and like how your energetic systems work. And then we know a little bit about what your intuition is like, what situations, what are the ideal conditions in which you will process the heavy things in your life, that kind of stuff. We get that out of that, and we give you that knowledge, which is a good starter to just start filtering and breaking down. Like, okay, these are the ways I'm aligned. These are the ways I'm not aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. And presumably, as part of that, we often see this as coaches, right, with clients who have that limiting belief that we need to get them through. Um, have you got a story where you've seen somebody that you've worked with in coaching, when they kind of have that limiting belief, they break through it, and then they almost kind of shift into something bigger?
Yeah. Well, like our story was, I'm gonna think a little bit about who I could say something about,
Mm,
but like I often use myself, um, because one thing I noticed about my own coaching is when there is trauma or addiction or coping or codependence, a lot of times, like you can talk that through and you can use some great coaching methodologies to understand it from a conscious side. Sometimes, though, you need extra help to get into what's going on. Like you say, the limiting belief and helping
mm,
them release that. And
yeah,
so that's where we use the healing and the coaching together. It's where we can help them release the limiting belief. They don't
yeah,
have to. Um, Now, of course, when we believe that we can let go of a limiting belief, that's 90% of the battle.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yes, coaching works for the same thing, is helping people get to that point of believing that they can choose something different going forward.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so a lot of like for me, uh, I guess I've had a lot of limiting beliefs around like my wife was just so much more capable with business, with money, with
Mm,
most things in life because the way her upbringing was very, I would say, very healthy, and not that mine was bad. It was just that we weren't super proactive in my family. We were very focused on the comfort zone and not pushing through things. So when you get into entrepreneurship, all of that is not helpful for you. So
yeah,
a lot of the limiting beliefs I've needed to personally push through have been around, thinking, believing I can create the future,
yeah.
believing that I can charge enough money to feed my family. Those
Mm,
all those things that we confront as a coach. Um, I think using, I guess, thinking about some more recent clients, um, most of the limiting beliefs that we start with are like helping people to realize how much they judge themselves and how little they love themselves.
yeah,
And then working with limiting beliefs there is a great place to start, just to create just a brand new foundation of, oh, cool, I've actually got this figured out much more than I thought I did.
mm,
And when I shift my energy around myself, I can see that, oh, I could choose differently right away.
yeah, yeah. And what about, I suppose, what we might describe as holding space? How do you stop yourself? Because this is something that most coaches will experience, of course. How do you stop yourself from kind of jumping in to fix things too quickly?
W- Well, this is so this I probably don't follow all the coaching rules. Okay, so I mean, I think it's important to listen. But one thing that coming from a gift's perspective, my top two gifts are exhortation and healing.
Okay.
So the feel of working with me as a coach is going to be different. Different than say a coach that's got discernment
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
prophecy or something like that. So what I like to look at, and even when I work with coaches on helping them, go from entry level to making more money,
Hmm.
I'm looking for that character of your gifts, our gifts, to come out in the way that we're showing up. So
Yeah.
for me, sometimes it's authentic for me to be like, okay, hold on. I feel something here.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that. And
Okay.
so I let myself do that sometimes. And then there's other times where it's super inappropriate to jump in the middle of something that they need to process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um that's how I approach it. I know it's not perfect, and I also recognize my exhortation. I can get going sometimes on something, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like I see something in them, and it's like, oh my goodness, let's talk about this. Can you let me riff with you a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
and just tell you what I see? And so,
I think
yeah.
that's what I found with this podcast series. I get guests into the coaching clubhouse. We have a conversation, and actually, in all of the episodes that I've done so far, there's so many different perspectives, so many with different ways of doing coaching.
Mhm.
Some of them
Mhm.
follow the kind of conventional approach, and others, are really interesting. Your story, your approach is different, and it's distinctive, and that's sometimes what all businesses lack. But most businesses want is that distinctiveness, and I think to bring that distinctiveness in coaching, and obviously you have, I'm sure, got so many success stories from the entrepreneurs and leaders that you've worked with. um, I just find it really interesting what your approach is, and how you support people in your coaching, and how you define that.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think the fun that we've had is around the team approach.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've been experimenting with a lot this year, and I've really been thankful for the results so far, is we'll bring in two people into a session. We'll bring someone that's got discernment and someone that's got healing, let's say,
Hmm.
and we'll like overwhelm them with listening. And so
Okay.
if because then you always have someone listening,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then those two coaches healer combinations of the two practitioners, let's say, are able to collaborate on their behalf. It's so we're using kind of the concept of in the medical field. I don't know if you've heard of, in America, they have this concept of Mayo Clinic, and what they do is they pioneered where you, instead of having, say you're in the hospital, instead of having one doctor come in and say, okay, this is what's going on here, and then you have like an hour later the next doctor and the next
Mm.
doctor, they brought the whole team of practitioners, the nurses, the doctors, everyone that was working with the client together, and they would discuss the client in front of them. And what I love about that is they're giving such priority to the client,
Mm.
and they're actually saving the client a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we use that same concept, and we're using it more and more. And I believe it's, I'm even encouraging other coaches and people in the space to try it, just
Mm.
have fun with it, with other coaches that and get a sense of how your gifts are, what your gifts are. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
how do they play with someone else? And
Mm.
that's when this gift stuff really is fun.
Yeah. Fascinating. I've got a couple of final questions for you, Kevin, today. If someone's listening right now, we're going back to this theme of alignment, and they're feeling stuck or they're out of
Mhm.
alignment. What do you think is one simple shift that they could start with today?
Honestly, the biggest impact that I have is like as far as like a tool would actually be to sending them to genekeys.com. So Gene
Okay.
Keys, like GENE keys.com. You can get a free profile.
Mm.
In the profile, if you go to the printout, at the end it tells you like under what conditions do you thrive.
Okay.
And I would pay attention to that. So some of us are attempting to be entrepreneurs, but we don't thrive as an entrepreneur.
Mm.
Some of us thrive in a small network. Some of us thrive in a large network. Some of us, and that information on that last page is a very good help to see when, say you're an entrepreneur and you thrive in a large network. What's a good idea there is you might be struggling with the wrong thing. Like you might just need someone else. You might need to partner with someone, or something like that. So, I mean, there's many things I can do. If you're struggling and you're stuck, there's a lot of approaches. But I start with a little bit of knowledge, because usually the stuck stuff is because we're not thinking about it right. Like we're looking at the problem completely wrong.
Yeah.
Give us a little new data or knowledge, and you can shift things.
Okay. Kevin, we've almost run out of time. Where's the best place for people to get in touch with you, to connect with you and learn more about Believe Crew?
Yeah. So 2 places. Certainly our website's an easy way to get a hold of us, and we see those messages right away.
Okay.
And then we're on LinkedIn the most. LinkedIn, and just search for Believe Crew. Cool.
Kevin, thanks so much for joining me today in the Coaching Clubhouse. It's been a really interesting conversation and a different view to some of the guests I've had on in recent months. So thank you for offering us that. And I wish you all the best with Believe Crew, and stay in touch.
Thank you.
And thanks very much to you for listening. I hope this conversation has given you something to reflect on in your own coaching or leadership journey. If you'd like to connect with Kevin, or you want to learn more about Believe Crew, I'll pop the links in the show notes so you can check those out in your own time. As always, thanks for spending time with me and with Kevin, this time in the Coaching Clubhouse. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, a fellow coach, or anybody you know that might be interested in listening to it or interested in the world of coaching. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Talking of that, I'll see you next month. Till then, bye-bye.
The Coaching Clubhouse is produced by Adrian Last Coaching. Discover more on the website at adrianlast.co.uk.